You're listening to Forever Fierce with Catherine Grace O'Connell, only on LA Talk Radio.
Cheers, beauties. Welcome to the Forever Fierce Show. I am Catherine Grace O'Connell, and I am your host today. Well, as it is in live video, there are some surprises that happen, and unfortunately our co-host Susan Honeygood had to cancel. She's at home with the flu. So we have a new guest here, someone who is usually more comfortable behind the scenes. My business manager, Michael Castagna. Welcome to the show, Michael. How does it feel to be in front of a lens rather than behind a lens?
It feels a little bit like a hostage, to be honest with you. I mean, if this was Major League Baseball trade, I'd be the player to be named later. But I'm glad to be here.
You guys can expect more of that as the show goes on, I'm sure. Well, we actually thought it would be a perfect show because today we have an amazing show ahead, and it's all about this month is sisterhood and the Forever Fierce campaign. Forever Fierce Day launches in 1 week. We have Annie Spano, the founder of the Style Collective. Talk about an amazing, inspiring woman, a leader who created her own community and her own sort of movement within the blogger community. The Style Collective is kind of one of a kind, and so is Annie. And behind the scenes, Annie has her own Mike, who is her business manager and her partner, and pretty much, operates in the same way my Mike does here behind the scenes. She's married to her Mike. Mine is not. He's a business partner, but we are a team. And the nice thing is when you find a partner in business that can complement your strengths and your weaknesses, it's a pretty good team.
Well, not only is she inspirational, she's really inspired us in the way we do some of the business that we've done. So we've always looked at some of the things that Annie's done and said, hey, these are great ideas, and creating that community that she's created. So it's been really a pleasure to work with her over the time.
Annie's amazing. And before we get into too much of today's show, I just want to make sure and thank our sponsor, Madison Reed. We're actually headed up there right after the show to shoot next week's show. So I can't wait to share more about that later on in the show. But it was just a year ago on Valentine's here in LA that we hosted an event for Annie. Was it a year ago or 2 years ago? It all blurred. It was a year ago, right?
Yeah.
It was just it's all blurring together. It was a year ago. So we had Annie here actually. She came into LA. It was for a different event, and I can't remember when that was. But in February last year, we hosted a Valentine's event. It was with Jessica Petite Style Script, who helped host the event here in LA. And it was an amazing event celebrating the women of the Style Collective. And I believe, are we going to be seeing some photos of this event today, Mike?
Yeah, we had some photos that we used for a blog post. Actually, there's a couple of them because we did another event with Annie that was at Gumtree. And so Annie was actually at that event, while the one that was for Valentine's Day was really just a group of Style Collective influencers that all got together. Annie didn't make that one, but we've got some photos up there of the gals that were involved and some photos up there of Annie as well, and in charge of the Gumtree event. So those are great.
That's the nice thing with Annie and the Style Collective. The way it works, the women there are incredibly interactive and collaborative. They actually host events like I did, hosted 2 different events, one with Annie and one without Annie. But if you check out her website, and Annie will share more, but it's thestylecollective.com, and there's also on Instagram, she can be located at Annie Spano, or on her Instagram, The Style Collective, and she also has a Facebook community. It's an amazing collaborative group of women. And the nice thing we're going to talk about today, like I said, it wasn't a planned show, but we always have people behind the scenes that are supporting us. Like me at Forever Fierce Day and the Forever Fierce community, I have an entire village behind me that supports me. And then in my business, obviously, this is Go Irish Photog behind the lens, and also usually behind the computer.
Well, if you really look at what has occurred, this has kind of been a pretty funny journey for you and I, because if you go back 10 years, we used to date, right? Then we just became friends, and we actually had a good enough relationship where when the dating ended, we stayed very good friends. And then came out here to help you move one day, just get together, and we kicked around this idea of doing this business. And you had never modeled, and I had never taken pictures, and didn't really know if we could do a business together. But one thing that's been great about having the long relationship that we've had and the transitions that have been through that, we know each other really well, we trust each other. I think we're going to talk to Annie a little bit about comparing that to her relationship where she has the added complications of running a business with someone she's in a relationship with. So
right.
that'll be interesting to see.
24/7, and she talks a little bit somewhere about
I'm gonna ambush her with that.
You are gonna ambush her. She talks about how she met her Mike in a shopping mall, and I'm gonna let her share that story with you. But Annie has been on her own journey, an incredible journey. She's very inspirational, and we'll get into her personal story. And Annie's a millennial, and we really want to hear what her view is of midlife from that, lens, and what she sees for herself as she moves forward in life. And she is, in her 20s, she is someone who has created something that very few do. And she created it from an adverse situation, which, again, she'll share more on the show. But hashtag everybody needs a mic, everybody needs a team, everybody needs a tribe, everybody needs a village.
Mike needs a salary, so that hashtag everybody needs a mic, get that out there and start posting on there, and you never know who's going to find me. So that's kind of how I look at it.
And Annie talks about that as well, actually. She wrote a blog post about how when she started her business, her husband actually works full-time, so he's able to kind of support them financially while she invests in the business, because I think many people think you start a business, and we'll hear Annie's story, and you start making money right off the bat. But there is a lot of kind of infrastructure, and especially in this technological world. So I'll be interested to hear her perspective, and them living together, working together, how it works 24/7. And do they want to kill themselves like we do many days?
Well, not kill themselves, it's kill each other. There's a big difference.
Well, I don't know. Speak for yourself. There's some days I just want to go, all right, kill you and kill me. But the truth is, it's not easy. It's not easy for anyone to be involved in something, especially that goes pretty much 24/7 in this virtual world. And Annie talks about that, trying to putting boundaries up that are very difficult to put up when you run a large operation as she does.
Well, I think what Annie's hopefully going to share with us is that we are connected to this enormous group of women in midlife, and there's thousands of them. And I think there's probably many of you out there that are thinking of starting your own business or saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to reinvent myself, because reinvention is really one of the themes that we focus on in the business that we're doing. And I think Annie is probably going to be able to really give us, a chronologue of just how she changed her life to create her own business. And, there's, as you and I both know, there's really good things that happen, and there's really difficult challenges that happen as well. So anytime you go on that journey, you have to be prepared for a lot of things that you're going to face. And I know we've probably faced a couple in the business where I said, I don't know if we can do this.
That's the truth. And Annie talks about, she has her personal blog as well as her style collective, and she opens up about her real journey. And speaking of Annie, she is right here. Let me grab this real quick. We want to welcome her. Welcome to the show, Annie Spano, the founder of the Style Collective. We've been kind of trying to tell your story without you, which I'd rather hear it from you.
Thank you.
And Annie, this is Mike here, and this is my first time on air, and I've already been fired because of this. It's like,
oh, no.
No, I'll never be coming back.
I had my husband, Mike, on my podcast a few weeks ago, and afterwards he was like, that was so nerve-wracking. I've never done that before. I'm like, you did great, honey. You did great.
Well, actually, that was one of the things we were talking about, and it's really funny because, Catherine and I have a business relationship, and it's a Mike and a Catherine. And, we used to date 10 years ago, and now we have a business relationship. And we were actually talking on the way up here about, what it's like when you have a business disagreement. It's easy for us because we just keep it to business, and the next day you just do more business. You guys, do you ever have that time when it's like, honey, the guest bedroom is for you tonight?
No. Mike and I are really good at communicating. Our communication skills it's like the foundation of our relationship. We're very open with each other, and I think it also helps that he has a day job as well. He is a consultant for a large firm, and so he does that, and he helps me on the side when he can with the business. So no major arguments have ensued because he's not, he's not working on it full time with me.
Good, because I got a side gig as a marriage counselor. So
well, Annie, I think you guys have clearly an unusual situation, and I know you talk about he really brings different strengths to the business. You clearly are a leader in community. and connection. And I want you to share where this really came from, your own need from being bullied to have a supportive community.
Yeah, of course. So if anyone, the Style Collective sisters are listening right now, a lot of you guys already know the story of how Style Collective came about, but I originally was a math teacher out of college, and I taught high school math for 2 years, and then during the economic crash in 2009, 2010, I got laid off from my teaching job. It was the first year that Mike and I were married, and we were both laid off from our jobs, unemployed, living in my mother-in-law's spare bedroom upstairs, trying to figure out what to do with our lives when there were no job opportunities.
It was the millennial epitome right there, right?
What's that?
It was the millennial epitome.
Yes, I am the stereotypical millennial, an older millennial. We ended up relocating to New Hampshire, and I'd gotten a job at a corporate office and started my corporate career journey there. And at first, I had no experience in business. I didn't really know much about what I was doing or the organization, and I was trying to figure it all out. And I just thought that, this is how business works. This is how people treat each other. This is how people manage one another. And I had been working there for about 2 years when I decided to go back to school and get my MBA because I really wanted to refine my skills in business and leadership and marketing, product development, all the things that I had been doing in my day job, but I wanted to learn them and understand them on a deeper level. So I went back to school, I got my MBA, and during the MBA program, I took a couple of courses that opened my eyes to the fact that the situation that I was in at work was not normal, even though I thought that it was just, this is just what it's like to work in corporate. But
what were the classes?
I soon realized,
what were the classes that kind of brought that to attention to you?
Sure. So one of them, the very first class that I took was organizational behavior, and that's where I learned about transformational leadership. And then later, about a year and a half into the program, I took a class called Leadership in the 21st Century. And that totally changed my perspective on what was happening at work with the woman that I was working with. So those are the two classes.
What gave you the courage to finally stand up and say, I don't want to do this anymore?
Okay, so I think probably the defining moment was we had gone through a lot of reorganizations at work. Things weren't working, and they kept moving people around and redefining roles and hiring and firing people, trying to fix underlying problem, which was the culture of the organization. They weren't actually fixing that. They were just trying to hide it and restructure things and pretend like everything was fine. So during one of the final reorganizations that I went through while I was there, I sat in a one-on-one meeting in this woman's office, and we had an hour conversation about my future at the company, which was not looking very bright. And she asked me to describe the type of leader that I wanted, the type of boss that I wanted. And I outlined a transformational leader, someone who is collaborative, someone who inspires you, promotes change, is strategic, wants long-term results, is opportunity-driven, all of these things that I wanted in a leader, someone that would make me feel confident in myself. And she told me that this did not exist and that I was never going to find that in the workplace, that I needed to know my place. There was a hierarchy. I was at the bottom and she was at the top, and I needed to know my position and respect the hierarchy, and that as long as she was there, I was never going to go anywhere in my career and I was never going to move up. And then she said, so you need to make a decision. Are you in or are you out? Do you want to stay here, or is it time for you to leave?
Clearly, Annie, you made a very powerful decision in what I'm hearing from you. When one door closes, another one opens, and you closed that door yourself, clearly, and opened another one.
Yeah, well, I did stay for a little while longer after that. That had happened in April, and I stayed through November because of where we lived. There weren't a lot of job opportunities, and I was trying to find another job to replace my income, and eventually it got to the point where my personal values were being compromised by the people that I was working with, and I was no longer in alignment. I was no longer following my true north. I was all over the place. I was a mess. I was depressed. I was crying before work every day, sitting at the kitchen table, bawling my eyes out, trying to drink my smoothie. And I just got to the point where I didn't even know what I was going to work for anymore. I had no purpose, no passion. and I felt completely lost. I was totally derailed. So at that point, once I got to that point of being the lowest low and hating myself, hating my life, I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's not even worth the paycheck, because if I keep going down this route and trying to influence the culture and change it, but it was too antithetical and it wouldn't change and people wouldn't change the way they treated me or others, I just finally got to the point where I had to say, enough is enough. I respect myself and I value myself too much to put myself through this. I know that I can help others and become the type of leader that I so desperately wanted others to be for me, that I said, I have to do it. I just have to take this leap and I have to do it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I made a calculated move and I figured out the pros and the cons, and took my fear and just kind of put it aside and said, I'm going to do this. And if it doesn't work out, then in 6 months, I will just go back and find another corporate job, and I'll have some new skills to add to my resume.
Well, Annie, sorry about that. You are the epitome of fierce reinvention, and fierce reinvention really is what we weave through every single show. And I think a lot of people, given this show is really through the lens of midlife, you don't have to wait for midlife, and you don't have to wait for either, life-changing experiences. And I think what you said is really important. You were in an environment, and at one point, you weren't even sure if that was just acceptable in the norm. But what you found out is that wasn't the norm. Now, how do you use that in your own community? How did you use that experience to go out there and start the Style Collective? And what did you take from that to inspire others in your Style Collective community to treat women differently and to transform their own lives?
Yeah, so after that experience, women uplifting one another and supporting one another became one of my core values, of a vision for a world that I want to exist. I want there to be a space, and I want other women to create these spaces where they connect with each other, they uplift one another, and they don't see each other as a threat, or they don't go after them and just are mean and nasty to one another. Like, you don't need to work alone. You don't need to make other people feel bad in order to lift yourself up and make yourself feel better and be like in a better role at your job, or be a better influencer, or be a better mother by bad-mouthing other moms. Like, it's not how you feel good about yourself, and it's not how other people feel good about themselves as well. So that became my core mission. Like, I'm on this straight line to help women collaborate and come together. And at the time, I had started a blog, a fashion blog, and I was doing some consulting for a local fashion boutique through my blog. And I happened to find other fashion bloggers that were starting around the same time as me, and they believed in this vision of coming together and helping each other. I formed a Facebook group for everyone to connect with each other, and it was this 65 group of women that I called the founding members, and we all shared tips about influencer marketing and how to work with brands, how to grow your following, what to do with your blog, and all these like technical questions that came up. We all shared all of our information with one another, and the effect was incredible. We all started growing and thriving at a faster rate than if we had to try to go at it alone.
Yeah, isn't that the best, though?
That's where it all comes from.
The faster rate. I mean, Catherine and I were talking before we got on the phone with you. And, Catherine always mentions whenever she talks about you and the Style Collective of how you inspire a lot of people, and a lot of women and fashion bloggers and influencers are inspired by what you're doing. And we talked a little bit about you inspire us, because a lot of the things it's true, and the path that you went on was very resonant with Catherine's message. And we have always looked to you for certain ways to do things. And I guess we're just trying to say you inspire us too. So we're happy to have you here.
I love that.
Well, how have you seen it really change the women in your community? You talk about this original 65, which I know some of those women. Are they still involved today? It looks like you kind of took the lead, but how do you see it really transforming these women's lives, and how can people out there use what you've learned to transform their own lives and find their own tribe, or find the Style Collective tribe?
Definitely. So I think that's the main point, is that it's not about me at all. It's about empowering other people to step up, take control, giving them the confidence to step in to their destinies, right? Giving them the tools that they need to succeed as an influencer, as well as the community and the support in order to succeed as well.
I think that's important. You said tools. And one thing that you're really big on, we had Jacqueline DePaul on the show last time, and she talks about blogging as a hobby or as a business. If you want to do it as a business, you really need business skills. That's something you teach. How important is that, Annie?
Yeah, it is. It's extremely important. If it's a hobby to you, then you don't need to take it seriously. But if it is a business and you're going to be monetizing through sponsored content, working with brands, you need to be a business professional. You need to utilize project management skills when you're working with these brands. You have to follow up along every single step of the process, because not only are you monetizing your blog and it's becoming an income, you have to have compassion for the person on the other end as well, and know that the person on the other end, this is their job, and their job is on the line if you don't follow through with the post that you said that you were going to do. Their managers on that side are going to come down on them and say, oh, those influencers you're working with, they're all flaky, they don't see the ROI in this initiative, maybe they eliminate that person's position. So I think it's extremely important, not only for your own personal growth of your business, but for the industry as a whole, because this is an industry that is emerging, and we need to garner the respect of these influencer marketing managers and show them that we are business professionals and we are worth working with. So I think that it strengthens the entire community, or the blogging community as a whole, when we all treat our blogs as businesses.
I hear you. Go Irish Photog. This is Go Irish Photog, by the way, my business manager. How important is what Annie said, integrity, and really setting a high bar when you run a business?
Well, I think it goes back. That is all important, but and this is something I do want to get into with Annie is how you bring that integrity into your dream. Because if I can probably imagine what you went through, Annie, when you said, I'm going to design this business. This is what I want to do. And if I heard you correctly, it's I want to create a community and I want to create collaboration. I know what happened with us is that at some point in there, and I think this is a badge of a good business idea that you have, is that things get so crazy. It's like you're riding a bucking bronco and you're trying to do too many things at once because everything's kind of successful. And then all of a sudden you step back and you look and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm doing 15 things here. I'm not sure I'm doing them all very well. How do I refocus this business, take control of it, and really go in the direction that I want to? Did that ever happen to you?
Yes. I think that refocusing is important. The bigger that you get, the more people want to work with you or pick your brain or ask you for things, and it's just the nature of the beast. And while I do want to help everyone and work with every brand that reaches out to us and mentor people one-on-one, I would love to, but I am one person. The most valuable resource that I have is time, and that's something that we all have. That is a non-renewable resource that we're all up against. So I have to figure out what's most important, what aligns with my values and my principles, and what can I delegate to some of my team members, and what do I have to cut out because it's just not going to help me achieve my bigger mission and the bigger goal of what I'm getting towards.
Annie, what do you do for you?
What do I do for me?
Like your morning routine.
Yes, I have a morning routine, which I know is popular among entrepreneurs and it's kind of cliche, but I do have a morning routine. I get up at 6 a.m. and I work out. My husband and I, we go to the gym together. We're gym buddies. I've worked out since I was 18. It's become a really important part of my life.
You're killing me. You're just killing me. You're embarrassing me now. Go ahead, but keep going.
You got 40 years on him. You're embarrassing him.
Me now,
you're setting such a high bar here. Working out every day.
It's one of my core values, maintaining my health and always working on that, because my mom passed away when I was 17. I think I heard you talking about it a little bit, Catherine.
Yes, I was hoping you would share it. Exactly. You've had a couple major adversities. You're bringing that up. You lost your mom, and you also had scoliosis. Yeah, you had two major things happen. So I'd love for you, since you just kind of opened that door, to share the impact of losing your mom. And at about the same time, you were going through this major surgery with scoliosis, and how you took things like that and transformed them into something so positive.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's just how I am, the way that I'm wired. I've always been a happy person, which is why at my corporate job, when I was crying every single day and I was depressed, I knew that something was wrong and something was off. I've always been a happy person, giggling, laughing. My dad used to call me Bubbles when I was little because I was so bubbly, and it's just who I am by nature. I'm always an optimist with a half glass is full type of outlook on life. And after my mom had passed away, I was very upset by it. You know, clearly I was very upset because I lost my mom, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I was really uncomfortable with my dad and my sister crying in the house, and I just, I needed to deal with it on my own, and I had to figure out a way to turn that situation into a positive, because I knew that that's what my mom would want. I knew that she wouldn't want us sitting around the house moping and putting our lives on hold because she was no longer there. She always told us that I'll always be with you no matter what you do. When you're walking down the aisle, I'll be by your side in spirit. And so she let us know that she was always going to be with us in spirit, and that she wanted us to continue our lives and achieve all of the goals that we wanted to achieve. So after that, I put a huge emphasis on my schoolwork. It was my senior year of high school. I took electives that challenged me, such as pre-calculus and physics, and that's how I ended up becoming a math major in college, because I excelled in those classes when I didn't even know that they were of interest to me at the time. And I really tried to focus on my schoolwork and getting good grades that would make her proud. I made A honor roll the whole year. I had 95, 97 in my pre-calc and physics classes, and I got into my dream college that I wanted to go to. So I try to look to the positive side of things. Like when something bad happens, it's okay, what's the lesson here? What have I learned from this experience, from this failure, or from this tragedy, or from this difficult thing that I'm going through? And how can I apply this in my life going forward to create, a new memory for myself, or a new learning, or a way that I can do better in the future? So I always try to find the positive, the silver lining, or a way to twist it so that it's a good experience. I don't know.
That's a beautiful story. I mean, you are the epitome, and I know you write very openly about it, taking something that obviously is so tragic and turning into something beautiful and inspirational for others. You're clearly a powerful role model. And I asked you,
thank you.
Yeah, I asked you because you didn't see your mom grow up in midlife. And obviously this show is all about midlife. How do you see yourself now as a midlife woman if you were to look ahead?
Yeah, well, my mom was 45 when she passed away, so I guess
so she was in midlife.
Midlife, yeah. I don't know, growing up, I thought my mom was the coolest person in the world. We used to go to Delia's together, way back in the day, and we would buy clothes and we would share them, and I would wear her platform shoes, and whenever my friends would come over, they'd call her Mrs. Marquetta, and she'd be like, oh, don't call me that, just call me Annie, and her name was also Annie. So I don't know, she was just so young at heart, and she had so much energy, and I think that's how I perceive myself in midlife too. My grandmother would always say to me, I look in the mirror and who is this old person looking back at me? I still feel like I'm 20. So I just always carry that with me, that age is a number. We're all going to age, and, it doesn't matter how old you are. As long as you're young at heart, you take the lessons that you've learned in life and you try to bestow them upon others and share your knowledge and help others develop and thrive so that they can create amazing futures for themselves. I mean, I just see myself continuing to do what I do now, but hopefully at a larger scale.
Well, you're clearly doing that, Annie, and you are a powerful role model. And we want to take just a minute to kind of break here and go back to our sponsor. We are actually headed up, Annie, right after this show up to San Francisco to take the show on the road for the very first time. And I know you've got your own podcast.
That's exciting.
It is super exciting. And
only if it works, it's exciting.
Just like this show.
This will be the first road show.
Well,
it is.
We love a good challenge.
We love a good challenge. So we also have our Forever Fierce campaign launching in a week. So we'll be airing the show with Madison Reed next week on the 20th. But it's super exciting, and we are part of their whole campaign that just launched this month. They're putting a whole new frame on basically midlife and what true beauty is for women, not the way marketing is out there. So definitely, you guys check out madisonreed.com, and amazing rocking hair color, but it's so much more than hair color with integrity and a conscience. It's a company that walks the talk, and back to a company that walks the talk. Annie, you really do that. You do that in such a beautiful way. And I know I asked you before the show, like, what are 3 action steps our viewers can take in their own lives based on your own life experience that would help them when it comes to reinventing their lives?
Sure. So the first one is to let go of traditions and throw away the rule book. I heard something, I don't know what it was from, but it was talking about how someone was talking about how it's good, it's going to sound a little bit morbid, but it's good that people die in their 80s and 90s because old traditions die with them, and the new generations don't carry these traditions with them, and it allows us as the human race to evolve and grow and innovate because we don't let these traditions hold us back or weigh us down. So I remember hearing that and thinking to myself, like, okay, tradition is good, but sometimes it's also good to let go of tradition and don't always do things because that's how it's always been done. So that would be my first tip.
Okay, color outside the lines, number 1. I hear you.
Yeah, the next one would be look to your values and only do what aligns with your principles. One of my favorite things I learned in business school was leadership principles or values translated into action. So it's really important for you to look to your personal story and define your values. What's most important to you? Is it maintaining your integrity, making a difference, helping other people, or devoting yourself to your family? Only you know the answers to those questions, and it's up to you to live your life in accordance to the values that are most important to you. And then the third is find a community to connect with who wants to uplift you and hold you accountable for your actions. As humans, we are meant to collaborate with one another and connect with each other, and that's when we thrive, when we are with other human beings. So if you're feeling alone, you're feeling discouraged, I would say find a community of people or find some new friends in the city that you live in to connect with, and that will help you feel like you can reinvent yourself if you want to.
Wait,
I think that kind of resonates with a lot of your message too, because you've always talked about connection and depression and the relationship between them.
Well, you can find your you can find your community, or you can create your community, really, which is what you did, Annie. And I know you talk about being the change. So how important was it to you in your own personal world to have a supportive community?
Yeah, so it was really the women. I didn't realize how important community was until I was going through that crucible in my life where I felt completely lost and I just didn't even know what to do. I didn't feel like myself. And so I relied on these women. I would come home from work and I would talk with them, we would connect with each other, and I transformed into a completely different person at nighttime. And I was back to being more of my authentic self. And then the next day I would wake up and I'd be crying and I'd go to work and be depressed and not know what to do. And I'd repeat this cycle. And so for me, connecting with those women and realizing that they believed in the mission of Style Collective and what I wanted to do, I put together an entire business plan presentation for them before I decided to launch Style Collective as a business, and I presented it to them in a Google Hangout, and I said, this is what I want to do. And I want to know from you guys if you think that this is a good idea to form a community for bloggers and provide the education tools and resources for them, for everyone to be successful. Do you guys believe in this idea? Do you support this idea? And unanimously, everyone was like, I love this. I will be with you to support this and promote it and help you grow this. And because of their support, it helped me with my confidence. It gave me some of my confidence back. And because of them, I took that leap of faith to start it as a business and do something that was completely in new territory for me. I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. When I was in business school, my friends were taking entrepreneurship minors, and I was like, I want nothing to do with that. I do not want to be an entrepreneur at all. I have no interest in that. And then I totally changed my mind once I realized that I could create something of meaning and value that could change someone's life. If I can change one person's life, then I've reached my goal.
Well, creating a community is always a great thing. And, I want to tie this in a little bit to really what you said was entrepreneurism, right? And the largest growth in entrepreneurism in the country is people over 50. So a lot of our audience out there would love to hear your views on that and how you went about it. And in particular, I'd like to talk a little bit about your business model, because I would imagine that when you started out, you said, well, I can have a model where I'm really going to just trying to create a community, and then I'm going to let advertisers and other people who want to fund that community and my business come in and do that. But you didn't choose that. I think you chose a model where you really wanted your members to say, this is worthwhile, and I am willing to pay for this because I get value out of that. And I applaud that because it makes you accountable for your business, and it makes you accountable for the value that you want to bring to your members. How did you go through that process?
Absolutely. So I see a lot of conferences that they get the big brand sponsors, or magazines that get big advertisers, or New York Times that have these big advertisers. And when your revenue is coming from somewhere else, like a brand or an advertiser, now all of a sudden your focus shifts to serving them and their needs because they're paying you so much money, and you get distracted. You're no longer serving your customers, your clients, your members, the people who actually matter in your business. So I did not want to start a business where I was being funded by sponsors and brands and advertisers, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to provide maximum value to the girls who needed it the most. And I also saw an opportunity to create something that was inexpensive, $10 a month or $99 a year, because there still are a lot of courses that are expensive. And while they do provide a lot of value, there was this pricing opportunity for millennial women. And so, like you said, with the business model being that my main, revenue that comes in is through membership, 100% of my focus, laser focus, is on the girls that are members of Style Collective and what I can do to serve them and help them and provide any kind of support that they need so that they can be successful. There's no distractions, there's no sponsors, there's no brands, there's nothing else dangling a carrot in front of me for me to be off track. So that was very intentional, because I wanted to make sure that I provided maximum value to the people that matter most.
Well, I think that's really powerful, Annie. And speaking of maximum value, you are always expanding, and you're expanding right now. You've added the Fearless podcast, and you've also added an upcoming conference. So please share that with us and where people can find you and find all the amazing things that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catherine. So the conference is in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I just moved to. I absolutely love it here, and I was so excited to have the conference here. So that's coming in April 14th and 15th, and it's for members of Style Collective. It's a 2-day blogger conference. And then the podcast is called the Becoming Fearless podcast, which shares inspirational stories of women, not just bloggers, but entrepreneurs as well, and their stories for leading a life of purpose, passion, and authenticity.
That's so fabulous. So if people are interested in getting into the blogging world, and I guess more importantly, interested in finding community, finding connection, and also learning how to monetize it, what can they expect to find on the Style Collective website and being part of your community?
Yeah, definitely. So we have e-courses. I've developed the curriculum and the content for those e-courses. We have an entire educational library, which is updated weekly, and that includes monthly blog prep tips, you know, exactly what to plan for your content calendars and what's happening in the economy, rate calculators, so you know what to charge for sponsored content on your blog, a whole entire resource for launching your blog and all the steps that you should take to get there. We have all kinds of worksheets, glossaries, daily tips in groups. We have member groups where everyone can connect with each other, forums. So it's just a plethora of resources. We have a map as well, so you can go on and you can find local SC sisters that live near you and organize coffee dates or meetups. So there's a lot here. If you, depending on what you want to do, if you're more community focused or you're more like education focused and trying to figure out what are the next steps, we have, you know, pretty much everything that you need.
Yeah, that's been huge for us. We actually met you personally, clearly. Just a year ago, we had that event here, which I believe we had. Did we have some pictures going up?
Yeah,
hopefully
the pictures have gone up.
Hopefully you guys are seeing some.
It's one of those technical days.
Our Valentines from last year here with the Style Collective, which you weren't actually here, Annie, but I think that's one of the really cool things that you have women stepping up all over the country, hosting.
I know.
Yeah,
it's so
right?
awesome seeing everyone hang out and meet each other in real life and form those personal connections. And that meetup that you did was incredible. I still think it blows my mind to see how you put that together, and all of those pictures are so beautiful.
It was funny. If you saw the behind the scenes, Jessica and I carrying that big balloon thing, it was a really, really windy day, and that's not the best day for fashion bloggers and our stuff.
Yeah.
So we were blowing, our hair was blowing, and the whole balloons were like collapsing, but we had the best time. And I hope you guys are seeing those images that it came through. And then you were actually here, and we're going to stay on just a few more extra minutes than we normally would because we got cut short at the beginning. Annie, I hope that's okay. Do you have a few extra minutes now so we can kind of keep, okay, perfect. And you got to come to LA, and we did another event at Gumtree, so we got to meet in person as well. And I find you so inspiring, and I got to see how the women respond to you personally. And you sat there really sharing your story with each one of them. So share what that's like for us when you actually get to connect with these people in person.
Oh, I love it. I am an extrovert in the sense that I become energized and full of life when I am around other people. I'm not an extrovert in the sense where I like to be the center of attention in the room or the center of the conversation. I like to listen and ask questions accordingly and just hear what people have to say and get to know them. But I love meeting people in person. I had the opportunity to go to a lot of different cities last year because my husband is a consultant. So whenever he travels for work, I just go with him because I only have to buy a plane ticket and then I get to stay with him. So it's allowed me the opportunity to connect with a lot of Style Collective sisters in person, and I'm always so grateful when everyone takes the time out of their busy schedules to come and see me. They make me feel like a celebrity, like I'm so important. I'm so grateful for these girls and that they come out whenever I'm like in their city. But I love it. I love connecting in person because it's what drives me. I go back to those moments if I'm feeling down or discouraged or I'm doing something that maybe is kind of like daunting or I'm not looking forward to it. I think back to, meeting them in person and how it's helped them and touched their lives. And it always helps me get through something if I'm not feeling particularly inspired.
Well, speaking of meeting in person, and I'm not sure, can people still get to your conference? Is there still availability or do you have a wait list?
Oh, no, there's still availability.
Okay, so how do people find out about your conference, and also what can they expect at the conference?
Sure. So if you go to stylecollective.us, there's a button on the page that says events, or at the top menu, you can click on conference. At the conference, we are going to be having all kinds of learning activities, networking, workshops, panels, influencer panels, brand panels. There's a VIP party Saturday night. So it's not a conference where you leave with a big to-do list. We're actually going to be getting into groups at the workshops, and there'll be lecture combined with worksheets where you are actually doing work and walking away with a big chunk of your to-do list done for the rest of the year. So.
Well, I think you're going to have a lot of women inspired and probably heading over to the Style Collective website to follow you and meet you there, Annie. What you've done is incredible. And I want to ask one really important question kind of before we kind of tie things up today. What have been your biggest obstacles or challenges that you didn't anticipate going into this?
Oh my God. So to me, like the Style Collective website, I'm like, oh, it's just a website. Like it shouldn't be that expensive to run.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
Oh.
There's so much that goes into running this website. I mean, I have someone who works for me, and he does 25 to 30 hours a week just to make sure that we're always updated and we have the best security measures in place. And the setup that we have with the servers is a little ridiculous. It's high availability, so we have 3 servers running at once, taking backups of each other, so we have next to no downtime. And it's just crazy. I did not think that it would be that involved and it would be that expensive to run the website. So that's definitely like the technology challenge for me was a big one. I wasn't really anticipating that. Scaling the business has been, you know, one of the bigger challenges, going from being a solopreneur to now having a couple of people on my team. And it's taken the focus from just creating the business and running the business to now building a business and a company and having, you know, not just the girls that are part of Style Collective that I'm responsible for, but also my team members and their goals, their dreams, their happiness, and having their career at Style Collective. So adding that level of responsibility was also, you know, a challenge that I had to work through, and being accountable, being like these girls' bosses, which sounds weird to me, but I embrace it and I love it. I love being, you know, their boss as well. So being on call 24/7, like there's no time off, as you guys know.
We know that one well.
No time off. Always things that creep up into the weekend, and you know, conference calls that happen over the weekend, and problems that have to be solved, and just dropping everything. And it's fine now. It comes with the territory, and I'd much rather be on call 24/7 than to be somewhere where I'm miserable.
Well, you're doing a great job with it. So.
Thank you.
You really
did you ever
find balance with everything and not feeling completely overwhelmed or burned out? Just reminding myself that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I know it's really cliche, but
no, it's true.
Knowing that it's true. And sometimes I have to say no to opportunities or turn things down and do what's best for the business and also what's best for me, because my bandwidth can get stretched.
I have one more important question for you. Okay, and I should have asked you this right at the beginning, but when you come on a podcast or a radio show like this, or even when you walk into a room, okay, if you had the choice to pick your own personal theme music that's going to play, what would that
very
song
important, be? Annie, very important.
Oh my God, my own personal theme music?
Yeah, a song that plays every time you walk into a room.
I don't know. I guess the first thing that pops into my head is Destiny's Child, I'm a Survivor.
There you go.
Destiny, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And you are a survivor. You're a thriver. Clearly you started as a solopreneur. Now you're a management, queen and boss babe in your own right. Inspiring millennials out there everywhere. So you guys, Annie Spano, cannot recommend her enough. Annie, you have your personal blog.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, you are an inspiration to so many. And Style Collective, head over to Style Collective. Definitely, you guys, don't miss this opportunity to meet her in person in Raleigh at her own conference. Follow her podcast, Becoming Fearless, because anyone can become fearless. If you can be like Annie, who's gone through such adversity in her life, you're a rock star, Annie. So we are so delighted to have had you on the show, and we hope to get you back. I know there's another conversation we want to have, and I just felt it was enough. Today we had a pretty full show, and I'm just thrilled to have you on, and I look forward to kind of following you and following this conference, and I'm sure it will be a hit just like everything else you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Catherine. I'm so happy to know both of you and to have met you last year. And I think it's incredible that you've taken, your personal mission for your blog and turned it into transform that into this new medium with your show and the movements, the campaigns that you do, the brands that you find that are supportive of this vision that you have for women in midlife and millennials and everyone, just inspiring one another, working together to live your best life, be authentic with your values and your business and everything that you do. So I'm so happy that, you were inspired by Style Collective and I'm sure many other things and are taking action in your life and trying to, spread the good word.
I appreciate that, Annie, so much, because you were the one I would reach out to. Annie, what do I do here? Annie? So, no, you've been an amazing role model and leader and inspiration for me and so many others. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but we are in the real world,
no
as you know. Yeah.
It happens to all of us.
It sure does. So hashtag everybody needs a mic, everybody needs an Annie, everybody needs a Style Collective. Awesome, Annie. Have a lovely day and rock that conference. I will see you in the virtual world until I see you on the ground again.
Okay. Thank you so much, Catherine and Mike. It was great chatting with you.
Bye, Annie.
You bet. Have a great day. Bye. All right, you guys. Well, that was an interesting experience. Obviously, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but Annie handled that clearly with grace and dignity. Unlike, she seems like a millennial at heart, a midlifer at heart. What am I saying? A midlifer at heart. She's gone through so much in her life and has overcome so much adversity, and she's grown into this incredibly beautiful young woman and powerful leader.
Yeah, she's great. She's an example for everybody, and really check out her group, and because I think you can learn things there, even if you're not a blogger, you're just thinking about doing some writing, that'll really help.
So, and her 3 takeaways are let go of tradition. So basically what I said is color outside the lines, guys. Don't necessarily go based on what you see out there. Create your own way, your own path. Forge, through that mindset and expand your mindset to what's possible. Clearly, she dreamed very big, and her reality is far bigger than clearly her original vision. Number 2, look at your values. Make sure that your values align with the path that you choose to go on. And number 3, which is alignment with my own personal mission, find a community, find a tribe, find a source.
Connection.
Right? Connection is a huge key.
And speaking of connection,
yes.
Look how sunny it is outside.
It is.
This is like Groundhog's Day for me because I saw my shadow. Do I get 6 more shows?
Well, we'll see. You guys vote on Go Irish Photog. But for now, I want to make sure you guys head over to our Facebook community. Forever Fierce Day launches next Monday. Forever Fierce Day. It's a global celebration, rocking midlife. We are changing the way you view midlife, because midlife, I got news for you guys. It's cool. So don't miss our celebration, 7 ways to celebrate. Head over to Forever Fierce, the Midlife Revolution on Facebook.
Wait, I just want to interject.
Yeah, wait.
One of those 7 ways is design the Forever Fierce cocktail. You create the recipe, okay? I'll do the testing. So you guys get me in info@catherinegraceO.com. Cocktail recipe. Put it in the subject, and you will get to be the inventor of the Forever Fierce cocktail. And you will win an exclusive Forever Fierce t-shirt. So don't miss 7 ways to celebrate, multiple ways to celebrate on social media. Post what it means to be fierce at midlife all over social media. Follow our blog posts that are going live on February 19th. Join the movement. It's a revolution. It's happening. We are busy making midlife cool, and we can't thank you guys enough because it's all about you. Forever Fierce, the show, is the voice of Forever Fierce, your voice. Thanks for being here, guys. Cheers, beauties. We will see you next week. Well, we're headed up to San Francisco right now at the offices of Madison Reed, our wonderful sponsor. That show will air next week. So see y'all next time, and thanks for being here. Cheers, beauties. Stay fierce.